book besties, I am back. It is now the end of July, question mark. Like, I don't know. I've been seeing so many YouTube videos in the last week that's already like August TBR, August this, August that, and honestly, it's confusing my little pea brain. Totally forgot it's not August yet. August starts tomorrow. But it is the very end of July, and I wanted to go over the last remaining books that I read in the month since the mid-month wrap-up that I did. I don't want to say I'm disappointed in myself, because reading is supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to have all of these like rules and stuff on the reading, because that starts to make it not enjoyable. However, I am a little bit disappointed in myself simply because this will be the first month so far this year that I haven't finished the books that I started in the month by the end of the month, especially because Fable has this really awesome feature every month where you can do your reading wrap up. It looks like this, where it shows you like all the books that you've read in the month, and then you get to just, here, I'll select them for you. Holy moly, I read a lot of freaking books this month. Okay. Ooh, I read the maximum amount that it'll let you put in the reading wrap up. It looks a little something like that. Especially since I've been using Fable, I have been super determined to finish the books that I start in the month by the end of the month so that I can make this nice little graphic and, you know, just mentally feel cleared out for the month. Well, that did not happen this month. What happened was, as I started this, Silver Elite is my first attempt at reading a true book that's out of my comfort zone. Like, yeah, I'm a romance girly, but sometimes I'm in the mood for a thriller, and sometimes I'm in the mood for YA, but I've never really been a fantasy girly. And I've been getting really bad FOMO over the last couple of months with all of these fantasy books that have been coming out that everybody and their mother is raving about. So I've bought a few of them, and Silver Elite was one. I know there's a little bit of discourse on whether this is actually fantasy or not. I am just going to say that it is. It does not take place in our world, and that is the only thing that I need to be able to call it fantasy. I am only about... What does Fable tell me? Because, you know, your girl is actually getting through this book, so I am a little bit proud of myself about that. I am now 43% done with this book. I'm on page 221. Again, I'm really proud of myself for as far as I've gotten through that book. It's so far outside my comfort zone that, like, that's one of the reasons why it's taken me a little bit to get through it. In addition to that, she thick. This book is over 500 pages. And I know a lot of people are going to look at the font and go, yeah, that's pretty normal, or that's big font. There are a lot of words on these pages compared to a regular book. First of all, this is like a good 2 inches larger than a regular paperback. At least a good 150 pages longer than a regular paperback, and the font is smaller. So like, if this was a regular size paperback, I would venture to say that it's probably like close to 700 pages. Does Fable tell me when I started reading this?
A few moments later.
Tells me that I started it on the 11th. I was hoping it was like more towards the middle of the month, but whatever. I guess let me start out by going over the books that I'm still in the middle of that I haven't finished yet. Or does it make... Yeah, let's do that first, and then I'll go over the books that I actually read since my mid-month wrap-up, and then we'll end the video just with a quick recap of all the books that I read in the month of July. So the books that I'm still in the middle of, one of those is Silver Elite by Danny Francis. The other one, which I'm also almost halfway through, is Face Off by Chelsea Curto. And I also randomly started The Inmate by Frida McFadden maybe like 3 days ago, just because I was super like not in the mood to read romance. I needed something, but yeah, obviously I haven't gotten very far into that book. So moving on to the other books that I did actually finish in the month of July since the mid-month wrap-up, which ended with book 1 in the Ice Planet Barbarians series by Ruby Dixon. Since then, I have read books 2 and books 3 of the Ice Planet Barbarians series. So the first one was called Barbarian Alien, which was with Liz and Rohan. And I also read the third one, which is Barbarian Lover, which is with Kira and Ahako. These books, I'm trying to think, like, compared to the first one I feel like, I think I've given them all... Okay, so I gave the first one 4.5 stars. The other 2 I rated 4 stars. I think I rated the first one a little bit higher just because it really surprised me that it was as good as it was. The other 2 were definitely really good. I really enjoyed them. They just weren't, like, amazing. Not really going to go into much more detail. I feel like it would be kind of spoilerish to really talk about what either of those books are about, so I'm just going to skip over that. Another book that I read this month is called Every Last Word by Tamara Ireland Stone. Now, listen, this book came out of absolutely nowhere. She has been sitting on my bookshelf out in the living room for almost 10 years. This book came out in 2015. I do not remember how I obtained this book. I don't know if I bought it from the bookstore. Don't know if I bought it from a thrift store, which is where I'm thinking I bought it, because I don't think I would have ever picked up this book at full price and said, you know what, it calls to me, because the cover is just really lackluster in my opinion. However, one of my friends on Fable posted her review of this book. I was immediately drawn to this book. The reason why is because this friend on Fable pointed out in her review that the main character of this book has something called purely obsessional OCD. Something that y'all don't yet know about me is I also have purely obsessional OCD. And if you don't know what pure O or pure OCD is, it is essentially like the internalized version of traditional OCD. So traditional OCD, it's typically shown in media where people are like obsessively washing their hands 15 times before they feel clean, or they need to count the number of ceiling tiles in a room to feel safe, or they need to check that they locked the door 3 times exactly every single time they leave the house, whatever. Those are compulsive behaviors. However, there is also some sort of obsessional, or rather obsessive behaviors that go along with that. So pure OCD is, like I said, the internalized version of that. So it's not to say that pure OCD people don't have those compulsive habits, but they typically don't, or if they do, they're internalized. So it's like you need to count something in your head. It's never something that you or that another person could observe you doing, like obsessively washing your hands or checking the doorknob 5 times in a row. They're usually things that are just things that need to go on inside your brain. Now, in reality, and this is only my personal experience, the biggest reason that I knew that I had pure OCD is because, first of all, have my entire life been an obsessive person. I get very obsessed with certain things. And initially, a few years ago, I lended that to ADHD, which has not been confirmed. But with ADHD, people have what they call hyperfixations. Yeah, this is more than hyperfixations. Like, I definitely have hyperfixations where, like, I care about something for a really short amount of time and then I just don't care about it anymore. But I also have, like, completely been obsessed about things in, like, kind of a scary way. So there's that. The other thing is that I get caught in what are called thought loops, where, similar to anxiety, where you are panicking about something will pop into my head, whether that be an invasive thought or just a regular anxious thought, but it gets stuck on a hamster wheel in my head and I literally can't get away from it. And it's quite literally the worst thing I've ever experienced in my life. I've had it happen my entire life, but it's been a lot more frequent over the last few years. And I really didn't know what to like do about it or what to call it other than just anxiety. I thought it was literally just anxiety until I learned about pure OCD. Anyways, back to the book. The main character in this book, her name is Samantha. She is a 16-year-old girl who has pure OCD. So like that was why I was drawn to this book. However, this book has greatly impacted me. It is literally one of the best books that I've read in my entire life, much less all year. It might have slated its way into my favorite book of the year. We'll see. But yeah, I was really not expecting to love this book or for it to be as impactful on me as it was. You can obviously tell by the amount of tabs that I really enjoyed this book. There were a lot of things in here that I want to look back on just because they were simply beautiful quotes, or they were quotes that were from her psychiatrist that I feel would be helpful for myself, or especially things that were like hyper relatable where I was like, whoa, I've never like known that another person had this experience. Shout out to Sarah on Fable for reading this book, me being friends with her, me seeing her review and being like, wow, I have that book on my shelf. I'm gonna go grab it. As a mood reader, it happens. And I'm very glad that I picked this book up. It was absolutely incredible. The next book that I read this month was an audiobook ALC from NetGalley, and this was called A Tale of Mirth and Magic by Kristen Vale. Now, I only gave this book 2.5 stars. I feel bad because I've seen other people's reviews and they really loved it. So here's two things. It's been a rough couple of weeks for me, mentally. And as I mentioned, I think in my last video, I do admittedly have audio processing issues. That is especially bad when the thought loops are happening and I literally like almost can't focus on anything else than what's going on in my head. So when it comes to physically reading, it's a little bit easier because even though my brain can still think while reading, it's a little bit harder for the obsessive thoughts or whatever to take over. Versus when I'm listening to something, I can like really tune it out and not realize that I'm tuning it out. And I think that that's what happened with this book. So I will preface this by saying, take my review with a grain of salt because I don't know how accurate it is. I will be honest and say that I did not give it my full attention. However, the attention that I did give this book, it just wasn't my favorite. It's a cozy fantasy, which I've never really read before. It didn't have a very exciting plot, which is to be expected out of something that's considered cozy. I don't know, I just wasn't into it. The next book that I read or tried to read this month was called Mayday by Josh Dillon. This is a thriller that is an Audible original. The reason why I was drawn to this book in particular is because the blurb for it says, for fans of The White Lotus and Below Deck. And I was like, listen, I am sold. That's all you had to tell me. It's on a yacht. There's drama. Let's do it. I got about 70% in and absolutely could not care less about what was going on. There were like 5-ish point of views, which is fine. It's not my typical type of reading, but I can handle it. It was kind of cool that there were various accents in the audiobook. So there were American accents, British accents, as well as Australian accents, which I thought was really cool and also very reminiscent of Below Deck. However, the story was just boring and I couldn't care less what happened, so I inevitably DNF'd it. And the last book that I read this month and actually finished, I just finished a couple of hours ago. It is called The Summer Girl by Jenny Blackhurst. So this is another thriller. I just, for some reason, was like in the mood to like read a summer thriller the last couple of days. Follows two sisters, one older, one younger. They just recently lost their mom, unfortunately, and they're handling their grief in two completely different ways. The older sister stays in England and kind of can't move past her grief. So like she's going along with like her daily life, but she's not like doing anything besides that. Her younger sister decides that she is going to not let her mom's passing drag her down like it's dragging her sister down. So she goes to America over the summer and decides that she's going to get a job working in Martha's Vineyard, Massachusetts. So that's kind of like this setup. Pretty early on, you catch on that something is wrong with the younger sister. The majority of the book is from the point of view of the older sister. It's her journey trying to figure out what happened to her sister because she goes missing and she can't like get anything done from 3,000 miles away, so she decides to fly to America to Martha's Vineyard and try and investigate it herself. And then you also get the younger sister's point of view from a few weeks earlier to kind of describe how her life was when she first got to the island and kind of like what led to her disappearance and ultimately her death. And then at the very end, you get a few chapters from the killer's point of view. This was pretty good. I rated this a 3.5. I couldn't rate it a 4 because it wasn't like amazing. I don't think a lot of people rate thrillers above a 3 or 3.5. 3.5 is kind of like as good as it gets unless you're absolutely amazing and like really like shocking to me. This thriller though was very engaging. I was like up until 2 o'clock in the morning last night being like, ugh, why are there 2 hours left in this audiobook? I want to read it now. So it was really engaging. I really enjoyed the story. I did catch on to who the killer was at about like the 70-75% mark, just because there was something that they said that I was like, oh, I've seen enough true crime to know how this goes. However, I was shocked to hear like what their reason for the killing was. So there was like, I partially guessed the twist, but not all of it. So yeah, it was pretty good actually. I was like, okay, Jenny, okay, maybe we'll read some more of her books. Let me go through all of the books really quickly that I read in the entire month of July, which was quite a lot. So this month we started with Pugs and Kisses by Farrah Rohan. Then I moved to Full Tilt by Emma Scott. Then I DNF'd The Carver, which is number 2 in the Fifth Republic series by Penelope Sky. I also read I Can't Even by Jenn McKinlay. If We Ever Meet Again by Ana Huang. The Favorites by Layne Fargo. Tourist Trap by Morgan Elizabeth. Ice Planet Barbarians by Ruby Dixon. Barbarian Alien by Ruby Dixon. Barbarian Lover by Ruby Dixon. Every Last Word by Tamara Ireland Stone. A Tale of Mirth and Magic by Kristen Vale. Mayday by Josh Dillon. And The Summer Girl by Jenny Blackhurst. And honorable mentions of books I haven't completely finished yet is Silver Elite by Danny Francis, Face Off by Chelsea Curto, and The Inmate by Frida McFadden. It has been quite a month. I have read a lot of different genres than I normally do, which is very exciting. I'm glad that I'm like expanding my mind and the genres that I typically read. I am really excited to finish both of those books that I'm deep into, Face Off as well as Silver Elite. I'm really excited to finish Silver Elite. I think I am really going to enjoy it at the end. And that has me excited about jumping into the world of reading fantasy. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If so, please like and subscribe. Leave me a comment below, just letting me know if you've read any of these books, if you want to read any of these books after watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!